Raymond. I'm a spokesperson for Friends of the Earth International.
So what's your reaction to this so-called final text, assuming it's agreed now?
Well, let's hope it's not agreed. I don't think it's sufficient. It's neither adequate. It doesn't deliver justice to those people already being impacted. And ultimately, it's a great escape for the big polluters. And at best, and at worst, it's a poison chalice for the poor, because it promises a lot in one word, but it delivers very little in substance.
So take us through the main points. The mitigation target looks better than we had thought, isn't it?
Well, in terms of mitigation, what you've seen is just simply restating of the old goal of the 2 degrees, despite the requirements now of climate science, and the important word about the 1.5 is purely an aspirational goal. It's not shall, it's not determined. It determines. It doesn't tell governments that's what they must say. It's an aspirational goal. In terms of on the pre-2020, one of the most critical periods in terms of emission reductions, where rich countries have already promised that they would review their targets, they failed to increase their pledges. So there is absolutely nothing. In the post-2020 world, this world where we're seeing an agreement that was applicable to all, we've seen that the pledges put on the table. Developing countries are doing much more than developed countries, and then now we see that the review of those pledges is weak. There's very little rules to it, yes, but actually the pledges are also not being taken into account in terms of the need for finance and for adaptation and other things. But probably the most previous issue that's here is for the most vulnerable countries is around the loss and damage. This is the recognition that we are unable now to cut our emissions fast enough. The climate change is real, it's happening. Many people in many countries and many communities are unable to adapt now to the changes of climate change, whether it's the loss of land, their food, their lives and livelihoods, and that they need support. And what rich countries have done here, they've ganged up, the United States, the European Union, Australia, Japan, Canada, they've ganged up on some of the poorest countries in the world and have got an agreement which says we will let you have the word loss and damage, we will let you have a mechanism which says we will help you with displacement of people, we'll help you do that as long as we don't have to be liable for any of the legal liability and any compensation. So what that basically means is I am going to be able to come to your house, set it on fire, and when you say, hey, you have to help me rebuild, I'll say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not liable, but don't worry, I'll help you paint your front door.
Why are some reactions more positive than yours, do you think? I mean, quite a lot of the press regarding this as quite a good step forward.
Because, of course, look, we all want a feel-good story, we want a positive story. We know that in France it's been a difficult month, and that's shaped people's outcomes. But I think what we have to do is we have to root ourselves in the requirements of science and justice, and that's the metric we want to look at. And it's the first thing in terms of about actually tackling climate change is to be truthful about the challenge that's needed, the scale of ambition that's required, the urgency that's needed, and to be able to translate that into concrete steps. And that's really what needs to be. If you delude yourself that you're actually taking action and you're not, then of course what we're going to see much further down the line is the kind of impacts we're already seeing, but happening at a much faster scale and a much more severe scale all around the world. And people will look back and say, but you told us we had an agreement, you told us we were safe, you told us we were that. And I would much rather be in the position of saying we speak truth to power. We told people what the mistakes were in Copenhagen, we told people what the concerns were in Cancun and of the Durban platform. We told consistently, we've been proved right every single time. So we stand by our track record, we stand by the fact that we are the eyes and the ears and the voices of those most dispossessed, those that have been displaced and the most vulnerable to climate change. And if they were here in their millions and millions, they would be saying the same thing we were. This is an inadequate agreement. This agreement does little for them and does little for justice.
What do you think the forces were that shaped the agreement away from the direction you would like it to have gone into?
Look, this is a great escape for the big polluters, and of course for the big developed countries, that was their key outcome here. They wanted to shift the responsibility from them to the poor. They want the poor to pick the tab up for their carbon pollution. They're the ones that polluted the skies, the water, killing our species, cutting back our forests, and of course leaving many of our global citizens not only dealing with the impacts of climate change, but remember, also dealing with the devastating impacts of poverty. You know, 1 in 3 of our fellow citizens around the world don't have access to sanitation or clean cooking. 1 in 5 don't have access to electricity. You know, we have seen 30,000 children die each day from avoidable diseases. These are real challenges for many people around the world. What they really need is actual concrete steps to be able to deliver that. And what we saw was the rich countries really saying, it's not that we don't agree that climate change is serious. We agree with you. It's not that we don't say that it needs to be done. We're happy to say that things need to be done. We just don't want to be the ones responsible for doing that. We'd much rather you all do that. We hear this, the world has changed a lot. But in reality, for many people around the world, of course, the world has not changed. We still live in a deeply unequal world where many people still strive for the basic amenities and basic rights that many of us enjoy in rich, developed countries.
What's Friends of the Earth going to be doing about it post-Paris?
Well, we're already doing it. We have brought thousands of our supporters from all across Europe here in Paris today. They're marching, they're organising, they're mobilising. In the whole 2 weeks here, we've had numerous protests. We've advocated, we've been on press conferences, we've engaged, we've lobbied, we've shouted, we've screamed, hence my voice has gone. But what we've said is Paris is not the end. Paris is a moment, a journey, we're going through it. The reality is until we change the politics at home, we're never going to change the politics here. What we have to do is we have to kick the big polluters out of this place, but we also have to recognise that it's our governments and the economic system that they want to sustain, a broken economic system that answers little for the people in the global south, but also doesn't deal with the issues for us here in the global north. When ordinary people in many European countries face every winter a choice between heating their homes or feeding themselves, in the UK alone 30,000 people, vulnerable people, die each year from the lack of warmth in their homes, when we have issues where asthma and air pollution is killing tens and tens of thousands of people. These are issues which we can resolve by tackling the climate crisis, by tackling the air pollution. The thing about climate change is that it is, of course, a great challenge, but in it lies also great possibilities, a possibility of a better, cleaner, safer world for us all. And that's what we've got to strive for. So Friends of the Earth is committed to doing that. All around the world, our groups are fighting against dirty energy projects. They're building people's energy systems. They believe in decentralized energy systems. We're protecting the right to food and water, and we're standing side by side in solidarity with those being impacted by climate change. Here in Europe, we're saying we as Europeans must say there can be not another drop of oil, no single barrel, no more tons of coal or gas, fracking, conventional or unconventional. We have to say the Europe needs to be fossil free by 2030 and do our fair share of effort and turn the world around from the kind of destructive path that it's heading down.
Are you optimistic?
I'm always optimistic because I believe in people power. All social transformation that has ever happened throughout history has come from people who have brought themselves onto the streets and have forced political leaders to act. That is the same with climate change. We're only going to be able to tackle this crisis when we as global citizens in every city, in every country, are united together, making very clear demands on our governments. The time for calling on governments to act on climate change is long gone. The time to demand that they act on climate justice, say no to dirty energy, yes to renewable energy, yes to justice for people is now, and we are asking people to join us, stand with us and build this powerful movement around the world.
Thank you very much indeed.
No problem.
I'll get your name clear here.